Hello everyone, welcome, and in today's video we're going to be talking about our journey in the Halo CE Lasso Pillar of Autumn. Now you might notice that the first part of the game isn't there. Now that's because I didn't start recording until later. Now I will go ahead and tell you that the beginning gave us the most trouble. That was the part that really gave us the most trouble just because the beginning the skull that takes away each part of your HUD. It either does your reticle once or your ammo once or something like that, back and forth. And most of the time we spawned without a reticle. So yeah, this from you're looking from the perspective of me, and Coden is the one in front of me, really shooting everything. I kind of hung back. Um, I did in this video speed up all the points where we got stuck, so don't worry about that. So yeah, we're just gonna be talking about the experience and what you should expect, really. So yeah, one common misconception is when people play the game and you're watching them, it looks so much easier than it actually is because when I spawned in, I was like, oh, this isn't that bad because the first half of the mission you just run. But then when you actually are given the gun and you actually have to fight, it's a whole different story because they take things away and they make certain things blow up like grunts, and that can be really detrimental to your playthrough. And another thing is when you're working as a team, you might be like, "Oh, well, that's better." And in some cases it is better because if you're playing solo, it restarts you all the way back to the beginning of the mission. But I don't know. I did beat this particular mission by myself on Lasso, and I did say I died a lot more times, but when you are with a teammate, sometimes they won't listen and sometimes you won't listen, so it really just goes back and forth on based off of which is really the person doing all the stuff in this situation. In this like particular mission, Coden was the one that was really doing all the work, and I was just kind of like right there. You know, I mean, I was just kind of running around. I was really just kind of like recording the adventure. Um, but yeah, and going back to when you feel like something, is easier or whatever, when you watch people do it, you really see that those other YouTubers, they really, when they say they spend hours, they mean they spend hours on a certain challenge because really, this really beating it, even though it was just the first mission, and yeah, it's probably one of the easiest missions in the game, it still felt like an accomplishment, and they even give you an achievement because it is an accomplishment that you're doing this because it's so much harder than you actually expect. Um, and it's really surprising. And when you're with a buddy, sometimes you can get tilted at each other and mad at each other because, like I said before, you're not doing something the way a person wanted it to be done, or sometimes you're not really cooperating, I guess you could say. And that can really mess things up. So if you are actually planning on doing this, um, I would say make sure you don't get too mad because, like, I bet this could ruin relationship if you got mad enough. But yeah, this is way harder than I expected, way harder than Coden expected. And it was really crazy, and I don't want to know how the rest of the other ones will turn out when we play the other missions. I'm not too excited about that. But yeah. Now this next part coming up right here, it should be here in like a couple of seconds. We were honestly surprised we survived because as you can see up here, there is a red elite and a regular elite in the hallway, and you can see that I'm spawning at a grunt, and the Coden gets it, and then a regular elite comes out, and then boom, and this right here, it just looks like, oh, they're just playing a game, right? Well, it's extremely hard. And it took me the longest time to figure out when you melee elites, it gives you your shields back. So I was really scared to hit them, and then I became reckless when I found that out. Now, this next part coming up right here, I'm speeding up because it took forever to get through. It wasn't as hard as before, because a day before, Coden and Strike played this and they could not get past this part. And when I played with Coden, we were determined to play and get through this mission and like this part of the mission, and you can see that we're constantly dying. Really what gave us the most trouble was at the top. You see the grunts, because the grunts explode and they're really a get out of jail free card, but the like problem is if one of them flies, and they can really mess you up as well. And when you forget that doors like that one right there open up, they can cause so much more damage than you'd really expect. This is when I started to actually play, because before I was just running and letting Coden do all the stuff. But then I realized this part is funny because they actually fell behind me. But yeah. Um, we also tried many times to go back to before, get a med pack or something like that, but they closed the doors and all this stuff. It was really heartbreaking when you'd like get really far, and then you'd like you'd see one of the elites and you'd actually be able to, like in theory, get them, because really even like like elite miners in this case, they're usually like a couple pistol shots and you're done. In Lasso, it takes more pistol shots, and it takes less pistol shots to lose ammo. So it's really just a random thing. Now right here, this is funny because I decided that I was done and I just ran for it. And believe it or not, it worked. Now this time it doesn't. Um, but you'll see what I mean. And like it's crazy because that shouldn't have worked and stuff like that, but it did. I think this is the time where it actually works. We both run for it. Yeah, this is the time that it works. I'm just watching this and commentating over it, by the way. Um, and whenever we'd get a checkpoint, it would be so surprising, and we'd literally scream out loud because honestly, it was just crazy and stuff like that. And when we finally did get past this area, which is right now, we did get a checkpoint, so that's why there was a cut right there, was because we died and I had to restart the video because my computer's broken, so I can't use my capture card. But we move forward, and I can't remember if it's this next part, but there's a part that I had to speed up ahead of time, just due to certain complications we had. And whenever we'd actually run into an elite, like right then, it would become really stressful because we would have to, like, watch out for our partner and also watch out for ourselves, because if we die, then we both die, and then if our partner dies, then we die. So it was more of like which one was going to go and do it. We actually had to think before we did stuff. Whereas in, like, if we're in a solo, and possibly even legendary, you could just run for it and you would have better luck. But in Lasso, if you run for it, you don't. You actually have to see, okay, this person has more shields, or this person has more life, or this person that has less life has more shields, so we better put them up there because we don't have shields. So you actually really have to think about that sort of stuff. And now this part right here was extremely tough, and we had to go back and forth constantly. We found a way to go a loop around, which you'll see in a bit, and this part just caused a lot of stress because, for me at least, because we would get so close to it, and then it felt like elites just kept on coming out of that hall, and no matter what we did, they always ended up just, in a way, appearing, and sometimes, definitely Lasso, you'll die, and you'll just be like, how did I die? And then and find out, oh, this elite hit me or something like that, and it's like, okay, that's stupid. And I don't think we died that many times this time around, but when we finally did get it, it was a very big shocker because we weren't expecting, honestly, I was not expecting to get this far, because I'd say we're both decent at Halo, but I And see, like, right then, you got to work as a team. You can't be, like, in the way and stuff like that, because you die and then you both have to restart. But luckily, this was team played, so we didn't have to restart from the beginning of the mission. Um, but like you just saw me die back there a couple of seconds ago from a bomb, that was because a grunt went off, and I was too close to it. And sometimes you might be like, oh, checkpoints are great. Like in this instance, this was a pretty good checkpoint. But in some parts, like at the same time as this was a good checkpoint for Coden, um, this was not for me because I didn't have any shields and I had 2 bars of health. So whenever we spawned, I would basically be stuck in a position to where if anything went off, or if I was even in like a little bit of a splash damage range, I would be killed immediately, and it just really took. It went from fun to kind of like, I'm not having as much fun, and then it went to, I'm not having fun at all. Not having. Now this part right here was really exciting for me because I finally Colden was almost out of ammo and life, and I had to take out the elite, and it really just it was stressful because we had finally done it. And then see, this right here was a good checkpoint for me, but for Colden it was not because he did not have a lot of life. Now this next area, we do die, not as many times, but we do die a lot. See, in Lasso, it's like literally one thing after the next. You think, okay, that was the worst part. And they're like, no, it was not. The next part's the worst. And it just progressively gets worse as it goes. And since this was my first Lasso experience, aside from a Halo 4 mission, um, it really kind of messes with you and kind of is like, I don't really want to play this level anymore. And it can suck the fun out of certain levels because you just play it way too many times. You play that same sequence, and then you got the dialogue stuck in your head. And it's just, I'm not saying, I'm making it sound like it's some sort of disease or something like that. It's not. It's just really, really hard. And a lot of people are like, oh, it can't be that hard. And I was like that before I started. And they kept on telling me, Colden and Strike, they kept on telling me that no, it's not it's not easy at all because you know Halo 2 on Legendary is hard enough without Lasso, so I'm not too happy about trying that. But this part right here was really scary because Colin did not have any life at all, and I did not have any shields. And I took out a grunt, but I didn't know if the other one went out yet. So when I sneak around, he literally goes off. That should have killed me, but it didn't, and it was completely and totally insane. Now we're coming up on the end here. Now this part did take a bit of time, and that's why I sped it up. And this part was kind of annoying for me because I started to get really frustrated with the game. Now, Colin was actually pretty optimistic with this because he has completed all the campaigns on Legendary mode. So, I mean, this was a huge step up. But that's when it would get annoying, is when you'd be like, you're like really mad, and then you actually do something good, and then like you'd walk around a corner and then immediately get sniped. No, we didn't die that much this time around. We are coming up on the end, and so it was just stressful because like even a simple grunt could be like your demise. It was like really scary when you'd see like a grunt, and they run away. You don't always have to take out the grunts, but it was scary when you'd see a grunt, believe it or not. But yeah, this part right here is the last part. I didn't speed this up. I do die, I think, twice. I can't remember. But every time I go and get the grenades, I just get one-shotted, like one-tapped. And so when I finally decide that I'm not doing it. And I think we still die, and we just decide that it's just better if we use the grunts as our grenades. And this was when we finally did take out the grunts and stuff. For some reason, we were still kind of scared because we had an experience beforehand. where a grunt would just appear out of nowhere and then just explode because another one around him exploded. So, and you see, we did take them all out, and see, we're just kind of like scared to walk over there because grunts are still there and stuff like that, because Marines are on the other side. And finally, when we do make it to this area over here, it was like, wow, we actually did it, and it was really cool, and we had a lot of fun. So thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to read the description, because that's where all the links are to get to our Twitch, Instagram, and our Discord servers. So do make sure to read the description, and I'll catch you guys later.